Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Chukwuemeka. Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, Mr. Solomon Dalon. Honorable Minister of State for Trade and Investment, Ms. Aca Investors. Deputy Chief of Staff of the Presidency, Special Advisors, Senior Special Assistants, Chief Executives of MDAs and parastatals, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2017 African Alliance Investors Day Seminar. Without wasting much time, I'll just march down and give Cyril the microphone to say his opening remarks.
Your Excellency, Vice President, all of the protocols observed. Welcome. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to this first country. We do this once every year. We do it to bring investors from far and near to come and first see our scorecard, what we've done for them over the past year, but also to share with them our perspectives and where we see things ahead. So usually it's quite a full productive day. On that plan, always end up with the next year. I was thinking about the beginnings. Who do you get from the way? So we are extremely together, Vice President, to the work about the human species. All our investors are drilled that we can hear from the horses now. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for honoring my invitation. Capital Alliance has been in existence for nearly 20 years. We've evolved. Started as a small fund. Today we are managing about $2 billion in assets. We have played a little role in catalyzing investments across several sectors of this economy. Where that has led to a lot of growth for companies we've invested in. Energy, telecom, media, technology, real estate, financial services, banks and non-financial banks, industrial, business and manufacturing, cuts across. Our investments have helped, I think, to create a lot of impact, and we're happy to continue to create that. That's why we're very interested in where the economy is, where the economy is headed. Some of the efforts by this government to just get the economy back on track. Clearly, it's like music for years. In other two ways, in ways in which we can help. I think advocacy is important. We cannot invest in an environment that is not conducive for investment. It's in our best interest to help, in whatever way we can, to help create that conducive environment. But also makes the environment more interesting for investors. We've always said we're interested in trying to help the nations, trying to help the country evolve. So we got a chance late in 2015 to put our money where our mouth is. When our CEO was asked to come and contribute to the nation building, and so we contributed to the country. Okay, thank you very much for accepting to be contributed. So without much ado, so we can get everything going, I would like to just say thank you to everybody for coming. You have come from far and wide. We have a pretty eclectic group of investors. Investors from across this value. We have pension funds from Nigeria, we have pension funds from abroad. We have development financial institutions from across the country, across the world. We have high net worth investors, local and foreign. We have institutional investors from everywhere. People who give us money because they believe that we can invest properly in thriving Nigerian economy and West Africa. So So we like to keep faith with those investors. We like to find that I think your government is beginning to sort of push the country in the right direction, continue to invest. Today, for those who are in sessions, we have the head of the National Investment Promotion Committee just come and tell us something I know he has been pushing about. There's the ease of doing business and some of the investment. So it's all on the right track. So without much ado, I told Aca has to pay for the little dinner we're going to give him. So I'm going to follow Aca to make a couple of remarks before we go to Aca. Thank you all very much for coming.
Your Excellency, the Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo, Honorable Ministers and heads of government and senior government officials and distinguished members of the private sector and the ACA community as well as the International Community of Investors, I just want to appreciate everybody that is here and say how glad and delighted I am. In some respects, when I was told to make a few remarks, I had to decide between not the thing sound like a vote of thanks to both His Excellency the Vice President and the team that has come from the government here, who I know that have had a very hectic day and still decided that this was an appointment they wanted to keep, for which I'm sure that we're all delighted that they're here. I also wanted to just talk about the significance of an event like this, and why I thought it's right to be here. As Cyril said when he was speaking, from what I know about Asia, from what I know about many of the people here, everybody, it's a very rich and deep collection of investors. And in many respects, I'm not a student of maths or statistics, but I think this will qualify as a very valid sample, in the sense that if you're able to deliver a message to this audience, I think you feel right to say you deliver it to the international community, to the local investment community, and indeed to the wider business community. Just because of the diversity of interests that are represented, the experience and the caliber of people who represent those interests. The other side of the story, which Cyril also touched on, is this crossover. A number of us, including His Excellency the Vice President, who have worked not just in government in the past, but some of us actually for the first time in government, but a number of us having served in the private sector. I think it was important in putting together the cabinet, for the President Muhammad. I think it was important for him, and he decided to basically put together a cabinet that represented not just different classes and communities, but also the private sector. And I think it's in that context that we're asked to serve. And therefore, I think Cyril is right in saying that, in a sense, one is almost loaned or, giving permission to go and serve. And in this case, it actually happens to be literally true. Because when I was being asked to serve, one of the things I had to deal with was to, get to a place where most of the investors in this room will see it as the right thing to do. And I have to say, and that's why I was talking about vote of thanks, because I'm not sure I've had a chance to say thank you. I have to say that from those conversations I had back then, they showed, in some respects, almost more patriotism than Nigerians. Because I remember speaking to the investors, and each of them telling me, first, you can't say no. Then let's start working out how you're going to do it. Because I spoke to most of the investors that were part of the community this year. And for me, that really touched me. And in fact, it challenged me. Because I said, if these people who are foreigners frequently investing in Nigeria and other parts of the world could be so interested in governance and in doing things right, we have a duty, we have a responsibility, not just to serve, but frankly to serve well. And it's something I remember each time in service, that one must not only be seen to serve, but one must do everything you can to serve well. Because, as far as I'm concerned, public service, which in some respects we have been diminished over the years, remains, a high calling. There's an opportunity to not only serve your people, there's an opportunity to make a contribution. Like Cyril said, put your money or yourself where your mouth is, so that they're not just talking, armchair, quarterback, and all that, but they're not really there to serve. But even to develop that story further, if you then look at what one brings or should bring to government, which is an understanding of what it is that is required to make it work for the private sector as well as work for the country. At the highest level of government, from the president to the vice president to the cabinet, they decided to prioritize this whole enabling environment as an area that must get a lot of attention. And I'm happy to report to you from the inside that there's a lot of commitment to it. It's chaired, the council dealing with it is chaired by no less a person than the vice president himself, and he's driving it really hard. In fact, I'm not sure if I've told His Excellency this, but when people are giving me a hard time, I'll tell them I'm going to appear before the council. Because if you appear before the council and His Excellency the chairman examines you or challenges you, and generally people go back and get to work. They realize that we're not playing. So I think that's one of those things that I hope will be a legacy of this government. And I mean it in every sense. But of course it's a journey. It won't even be finished in one term, but it has to be a journey that will continue in a way that becomes a culture. And the other thing I wanted to touch on briefly is the whole subject of investor confidence, market confidence, business confidence. I'm glad to hear just from the feedback we're getting from the private sector that not just that things are beginning to come, but are beginning to sense and see things turning. The thing that gives me confidence about this now is that I know that we're trying to build on very sound foundations, most of the things we're doing. So we are hopeful that the turn, as it happens, will not just be a fluke, but it will be a turn that will be sustained. And clearly, I hope as His Excellency gives his speech and as we interact tonight, some of those things that we're doing will become more obvious. I don't want to make a long speech tonight. But let me also say that Nigeria as a country has a responsibility, not just for itself, but for Africa as a continent. And it's very important that we get it right here, because people have said, and I don't think it's arrogant or sort of misplaced to say that, Nigeria has to get it right for Africa to get it right. So we carry a responsibility that we should not take lightly. And so for me, when I deal with investors, most of the investors here in terms of their profile, I know that if Nigeria and sort of what firms that are investing in Nigeria, if they don't do it well, it will affect that portfolio and it will affect the confidence in Africa as a whole. So I think there are many ways to think about this. But for me, the most important thing happening tonight, for which I think this is a very important thing, is this partnership between the public sector and the private sector. We talk about it, but one of the things we've been reflecting on, thinking about is how do you make it substantive? How do you give it effect? Because it's one of those things that there's no real opposition in government. It's not like when you say we have to partner with the private sector to get the country right. You say no, let's do it alone. The real question is around how do you do it? And I want to submit to you that how you do it is by what we're doing here tonight. By having platforms, vehicles, avenues where we can dialogue, where you can hear from the horse's mouth, as they say, from the highest levels of government, and where we can meet the investors, and then hopefully coming out of it also, whatever wisdom and intelligence we get, where we will act on it. And as that process continues, I think you will find that inevitably, we will succeed. And I use the word inevitably advisedly here. What do I mean by that? Some people once said that success is predictable. In other words, if you do the things people do to succeed, you will succeed. And I belong to that school, and unashamedly and unapologetically so. I am fully persuaded that if as a country we make the right investments and do right things, we'll get the right results. But I will even go further and say, if we're not getting the right results, I think we should be tough on ourselves and say there must be a reason why we're not getting the right results yet. And I'm fully convinced that as we continue on this path, that the results will come. I want you to keep faith with the country. I want to assure you that we are building on very sound fundamentals, whether it's the enabling environment, whether it's creating the right atmosphere for investments, or even the sectors that we are supporting, or the policies, and all the other things that you'll hear more about tonight. But I think, let me say one final thing, that I hope the kind of investors, sophisticated investors in this room, are the type that will be people who recognize the early signs, what you might call the lead indicators, or the leading indicators. Because I would like you to get the first fruits of Nigeria as it comes right. I hope you will leave this set of meetings with a conviction, not because everybody has spotted it and the data is already out, that this is a market that has turned the corner and is about to go through a very positive swing, or a very positive cycle, or even a sustained secular shift positively, in a way that you would then, not just step up your commitments here, but help tell the story of why this is the market to be, even if it sounds somewhat contrarian. This is why I'm so happy that you have actually traveled and you have come. And I hope the evidence and the body of evidence will get you there. But if he doesn't, we promise we'll continue the journey. We won't give up. That engagement will continue. That interaction will continue. And the final thing I would say is that remember that in terms of not just my portfolio, but also representing the private sector to some degree in government, please know that we're a friendly government. And I mean this literally. If you have any issues with Nigeria in terms of the government or anything that we can help with, please don't hesitate to come. You don't have to go crazy. I mean, it's something we do for other people. We're not doing it just because it's you. That's the kind of government we want to do. Where people can ask questions, where they have issues, we help them to solve it. And where over time there's a culture of service. There's a culture of help and being helpful to people. And there's a culture of delivery, such that you will then number Nigeria as one of your more successful investment destinations. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, okay? I've always wondered why I can't give a stand-up speech like you. From afar, I need a podium to read, and I've concluded because I've lost all my hair. But then I have to speak to Stephen West and to Wale Adeosun to compare notes, to see if the hypothesis is right or wrong. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure this evening to introduce the guest speaker, and no other person than His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, GCON. Professor Osinbajo is an outstanding lawyer, a social reformer, an academic, a politician, and a pastor. I can go on, it's probably more than that. Professor Osinbajo, as a senior lawyer, has participated in Nigeria's civic life in various capacities in those areas I mentioned. As a lawyer, Professor Osinbajo has conducted very important constitutional and presidential cases before the Nigerian Supreme Court. Some of these include fiscal disputes between the federating units and the federal government, disputes regarding the ownership and control of oil and gas resources, town and physical planning disputes between the federating units and the federal government, and international territorial jurisprudential issues in the West African Sub-Regional Court. While in public office as the Attorney General of Lagos State, Prof is credited with undertaking far-reaching judicial reforms in Lagos State, addressing critical areas as judges recruitment, remuneration, training, and discipline. And that has become a template that is now being rolled out across the Federation. Professor Osinbajo is a member of the International Bar Association and the British Institute of International and Comparative Law. He has served in the Nigerian Body of Benchers and the Council of Legal Education of Nigeria. On the strength of his legal experience, Prof has been called various times to play roles in many organizations in the public and private sector. For example, before he went back into politics again, he was an independent director of Citibank Nigeria. He was a one-time ethics advisor to the board of the African Development Bank. He has served in various capacities at the United Nations Organization. Before coming back into politics again in 2015 full-time, he was a senior partner at the law firm of Simmons Cooper's Partners, a commercial law practice. As a social reformer, Prof has led a number of efforts targeted at Nigeria's poor, giving them access to justice. For example, while he was the Attorney General of Lagos State, he addressed access to justice for the poor by establishing appropriate institutions in the Office of the Public Defender and the Citizens Mediation Center. Prof. Osinbajo and his wife founded the Orderly Society Trust, whose primary aim is to nurture and support institutions, ideas, values, practices, and conventions which support order in society. He's involved in literacy programs for children in public schools. He's also a co-founder of the Justice Research Institute, a justice sector think tank. Prof, by virtue of that appellation, is an outstanding academic with several prizes to show for a lifetime of scholarship, beginning at a very young age. Won many scholarships in secondary school and at university, many prizes. After graduating from the University of Lagos, one of the best universities in the world, in 1978, I went there, by the way, and obtaining a master's in another great university, London School of Economics and Political Science. He was engaged to be a lecturer at the University of Lagos. He lectured between 1981 and 1988, took a brief sabbatical to work with the then Attorney General of the Federation, and returned to the University of Lagos, where he was head of Department of Public Law between 1997 and 1999. And then went back again after a stint in Lagos State, becoming a visiting professor in the law Department of Public Law at the same university. Now today, Prof is a politician, and he really got into politics in 1999 when he was appointed as a member and secretary of the think tank and transition work group that deliberated on the strategies to transition from military rule to democratic rule in Lagos State. Owing to the excellent work he did, he was appointed the Attorney General of Lagos State, the position he took between 1999 and 2007, when that administration ended. After the formation of the APC, the All Progressive Congress, the ruling party today, Prof was asked with other notable Nigerians to design and produce a manifesto for the new political party. This obviously culminated the roadmap that led to led to the elections, then win the elections, and him becoming the vice president in 2015. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Prof is a man of the cloth, a man of silk, a man of letters. It's my pleasure this evening to invite him to give the keynote address.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please sit. The Honourable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Aca, the Honourable Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Solomon Dalong, Chairman of African Capital Alliance, Mr. Dick Kramer, Chief Executives of parastatals who are here with me, and our dear friends and partners from all over the world who are here, captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be at the African Capital Alliance Investors Dinner, and it's so good to see so many familiar faces here today. I must say that I remember fondly my engagements with Capital Alliance. My old firm, Simmons Cooper, did both litigation and advisory work for ACA while when I was in practice, and I believe they still do. While I remember the stimulating engagements, their remarkable professionalism was only matched by their frugality in the quantum of fees. But I suppose that's why they are successful as they are. But seriously, firms like ACA represent the best there is about Nigeria, combining world-class standards with local expertise to make positive contributions, but above all, maintaining high ethical standards in the sometimes heady business environment. Which partly explains why we were honored to have Aca join our cabinet. The credibility of this firm, built through the years under Dick's legendary mentorship, remains an important asset to our efforts at gaining the confidence, especially of the private sector. I have also come here today with my dear friend, Mr. Solomon Dalong, in order to introduce some diversity here. Those of you who are here mostly represent those who still believe very strongly that free enterprise is the only way. My friend Solomon Dalong represents a bit of the left of center, hanging on rigidly to the ways of Karl Marx. Having spoken to this group in the past in different contexts, I'm especially pleased to be speaking to you from a different and fresh perspective. The stakeholders group represented in this room, domestic and foreign investors, development financial institutions, sovereign wealth authorities, pension funds, asset managers, are indeed very important to us. You are critical partners in our national development, especially in the context of things that are important to us, such as partnering with private capital and partnering with the private sector. In the past 5 years, you've helped raise $16.5 billion for private equity in Africa. This additional capital helped supplement the financing available from the government and traditional sources for economic development. For us in Nigeria, there's no question that 2016 was a challenging year. We saw a general slowdown in the economy with significant declines in government revenue, foreign reserves, and inflows of capital. However, investors who have followed the Nigerian story know that this short-term outlook is improving, while we are set to achieve long-term structural change. As a government, we are committed not only to speedy recovery, but also to coming out stronger and more resilient and better positioned for sustainable growth and development. Our objectives are a robust economy that is less dependent on oil as a major resource of foreign exchange and government earnings, sustainable and inclusive growth, propelled by diversification, more jobs and better skills for young people, increased power supply, an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, an effective social safety net for the poor and vulnerable, and a generally more prosperous nation. These are the indices by which we believe our efforts will be judged. We are quite mindful of the enormous work required to meet these commitments. And this is the reason why I must say that this administration fully understands the nexus between investors, domestic and foreign, and our aspirations for job creation, inclusive economic growth, security, and good governance. We understand that increased investment tells its own story, and that investors can promote more positive image of Nigeria than government efforts can ever achieve alone. We understand that successful investors attract even more investors and investment. And to this end, we have crafted and are implementing a number of initiatives, some of them building on existing foundations, and others a demonstration of our resolve to move away from the unhelpful patterns and habits of the past. This evening, I'd like to just briefly outline about 3 of those initiatives. The first is the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The second is creating an enabling environment for businesses and investments. And the third is improving transparency and accountability. The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. It's important to set the context for developing this plan. And I'm sure that some of us here would have possibly read it or seen it on one of our websites, or perhaps even have hard copies of it. Given some of the economic headwinds that this government faced as it settled into office, we produced 2 plans after broad and extensive consultations within and outside government, notably the private sector. The first was a short-term strategic implementation plan, 2016, and then a medium-term, 2017-2020 economic recovery and growth plan, launched 2 months ago by the President. The broad objectives of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan are 1, to restore growth, 2, to invest in our people, and 3, to build a competitive economy. And to achieve these objectives, we are prioritizing 5 specific sets of actions. In the immediate term, we intend to stabilize the macroeconomic environment while moving over the rest of the planned period to boost agriculture and food security, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, improve transportation infrastructure, drive industrialization, especially focusing on small and medium enterprises. These priorities will be underpinned by an extensive social investment program that will engender inclusiveness and social cohesion. To ensure delivery of planned priorities, we have provided for a presidential level delivery unit tasked with executing this plan. The Presidential Delivery Unit will ensure that our progress is measured and linked desired results every step of the way. Right now, there is some cause for cautious optimism, with inflation now trending downwards, foreign reserves increasing, and consumer sentiments improving. Various projections point to a return to modest levels of economic growth this year. Our aspiration, of course, is to significantly outpace these projections and do so as quickly as possible. creating an enabling environment for business and investments. We realize that Nigeria is generally perceived to be a rather difficult place to do business, and are accordingly committed to systematically removing all identified constraints. A presidential enabling business environment, what Oke had spoken about a moment ago, PEBEC for short, which I have the privilege of chairing, was established in 2016 to work on a wide range of reforms in the business environment. Now, these are broadly aimed at easing the entry and exit of people and goods, and ensuring more efficient and transparent regulatory processes and procedures. For this effort, we've engaged the firm of McKinsey and the former minister of Georgia, who led a remarkable process of similar reform in his own country, to partner with our dedicated Ease of Doing Business Secretariat, comprising representatives from the public and private sector. Just 2 weeks ago, we concluded a 60-day national action plan on easing the business environment. And I'm pleased to note that we made good progress in business registration, paying taxes, visa on arrival processes, port processes, dealing with construction permits, amongst others. During this period, our team collaborated with stakeholders across the country, state governments, especially the Lagos and Kano state governments, the National Assembly, trade associations, and small business owners. The lessons and successes from this initial work will help us to consolidate early gains and tackle outstanding challenges. The feedback we're getting from small businesses is positive, and we hope to see improvements in our chosen metric, which is the World Bank Ease of Doing Business rankings from this year. I spent half of today in one of our Ease of Doing Business initiatives, the MSME clinics in Jos Plateau State. I had in the past few weeks been in Sokoto and in Aba. The idea is to bring federal government agencies concerned with business approvals face to face with MSMEs. The changing orientation of our agencies is obvious. They are meant to be business facilitators, not obstacles. And taking them around and having them see and meet with the MSMEs and hearing their complaints, in my view, has greatly helped to position them for the new tasks and the different orientation that we now expect of them. Improving transparency and accountability. Through a combination of policies and institution building efforts, the Nigerian government is working hard to ensure improved governance, especially respect for the rule of law, and more efficient and judicious use of public resources. Indeed, we will ensure that public funds work for the public good. It's in this regard that Nigeria has signed up to the Open Government Partnership, a demonstration of our commitment to public sector transparency. Besides, our efficiency unit in the Ministry of Finance and similar initiatives have remarkably raised the standards of fiscal discipline, which government has committed to observing. In a similar context, last year we reformed the cash call arrangement by which the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, traditionally funded its share of the crude oil exploration and production joint ventures, JVs, with international oil companies. The cash call obligations had consistently put pressure on the federal government's finances, and the failure to fully fund them resulted in the accumulation of debt arrears of more than $6 billion as of December 2015. The cash call arrangement also hampered the investments in the upstream sector of our oil and gas industry. But starting this year, a new funding mechanism has been introduced which will allow for cost recovery and enable the joint ventures to become self-financing entities. This new arrangement facilitates transparency and overcomes the previous constraint on maximizing the potential of our petroleum sector. These three areas I've touched on constitute only a part of our overall vision for a new Nigeria. While we're not yet where we ought to be, I can confidently say that we are on the right path and gaining increasing momentum. Nigeria is well on her way to becoming a much more attractive investment destination. The global private equity fundraise of $347 billion last year, of which only $2.3 billion came to Africa, shows the scope of possibilities and at the same time the length of the journey ahead. I'm convinced that the fundamental Nigerian economy are compelling for investors seeking growth and value. We have a large domestic market of over 180 million people, a large youth population with potential for increased labor productivity, abundant natural resources, an improving economic story, and strengthening democratic institutions. We are also the main gateway to a combined West African consumer market that's about as large as our domestic market. We need you to increase your commitment to these markets and to encourage others to partake as well. Let me say that, as always, we are committed to ensuring that our nation presents the best possible face for those who want to invest here. And all that is required to do so, we intend to do. That explains why we've worked in the past, especially this past 18 months or so, very hard on trying to get all of the fundamentals right. Along the way, it's been difficult, sometimes extremely challenging. But I want to say that it has been, it's been a journey that most of us who have participated in it have found both interesting. I found both interesting and rewarding in some senses. I noticed, that who is my, in some senses, is my barometer for measuring the way things are going. That is looking much better these days. I remember several times when it seemed as if might just walk away. But these days he's even getting used to the protocol. He no longer calls the president Honorable President. He now knows that the president is actually His Excellency. And those forms of very, really earth-shattering courtesies that politicians take very seriously. So I think that we're doing very well, if we measure it by how Aca is feeling these days. I thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the rest of what I know will be an enlightening and stimulating evening. Thank you very much.
About 2 years ago, I would have been this former and this complete. It would have been less former. But I've learned that we have to give honor to whom is due. So, Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Kechiwedele. And then Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Scott Malone, and then all the people's representatives. On behalf of African Capital Alliance, we are extremely very grateful that the honored this evening by the distinguished guests that we have today. In business, and particularly in private equity, we tend to go to our money. But I've learned that in government, people go to their presence. So the presence of very senior government officers here, including His Excellency, the Vice President, is the extreme endorsement of private equity business. Also, we're very, very grateful. Thank you. We also want to say special thank you to all our guests that have been here tonight. We're grateful in particular to our investors that have traveled from near and far to honor the students and it's our desire that as we go, we travel well. And if we do invite you next year, we're very happy to have you. Thank you very much.
try your best just to make it quick. Remember to this thing. Cause there must be something she can do. This side is broken into. There is a kiss of emergency. It does the pressure down and make my brain breathe. But not us. Only you and I can win this affair. My night's lost. Oh, water's pain is getting lost. I don't wanna sing the dove. I need a tenders for minors around the clock. Cause there's no prescription for me. She's the one, the only remedy. My night's lost. Say only you alone can quench this time. Yeah. My night's lost. Oh gosh, all this pain is getting lost. If I'm sure I don't wanna wait for your love. I don't wanna wait for your love. From the very first time I set my eyes on you, my heart set for the truth. But I know now that I've waited all your life, yeah. But the way it is feeling. So don't treat me like I know rabbit on the street. Because I know what to do. Don't talk to me if you think I'm dumb. I wanna know anything. See, I don't wanna wait in vain for your love. I don't wanna wait in vain for your love. I don't wanna wait in vain for your love. Oh, someone see, I'm still waiting in vain. I